Hi there, friends. This is Emily Craig, and I did a history reset yesterday that just didn't turn out very well. So I thought I would do a review of our history as we know it tonight. It's Sunday night. Because what I'm seeing now online is getting more and more fragmented, okay? The people who are talking about politics are only talking about politics. The people who are talking about UFOs are only talking about UFOs. They're not talking about treaties that the government signed, which means that our world has some kind of relationship with UFOs. The people who are talking about a Western and American culture are not talking about the flawed history that we have. Okay, our flawed history kind of broke apart between the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Trent, when 1,075 years of human experience got deleted out of our historical record. So in the Bible, Jesus Christ was born in 3 BC, and in the Culbrin Bible, he's born in 1072 AD, which could mean that the life of Jesus Christ occurred 1,000 years later, only 1,000 years ago, not 2,000 years ago, which means we are not as far from the experience of the original Christians as we've been told we are. In the meantime, okay, archaeologists are talking about this dig and this dig and this dig and this dig, but they're not asking the question, why are there so many wrecked cities that should have stood for thousands or tens of thousands of years? They were built of stone, for crying out loud. They should all still be. The columnar, the Greco-Roman architecture in London looks exactly like that in Rome or Greece or Indonesia or Singapore. How can that be? How come the Tartarian Empire, which actually sort of coincided with the Ottoman Empire, in which it was commercial. Rome was commercial, Greece was commercial. The empire is always commercial. The empire has certain characteristics that carry from empire to empire to empire to empire. If you've read The Two Babylons by Bishop Alexander Hislop, he penned it in 1858, you find out that the characteristics of the Anunnaki that came to Sumer after the flood, from there to Babylon, to Assyria, to Greece, to Rome, to Tartary, to now, all the characteristics of all of these empires are the same. They all sacrifice dissidents. They are all commercial. They are all built on articulated, verbalized head tripping. They're all head tripping empires. And so what I get from kind of assembling this is that we, the Judeo-Christian people, have already experienced 3 apocalypses. There was one right after the Roman Empire, around the time Jesus Christ existed. Then there was another one in the 1400s or 400s, depending on which chronology you're dealing with, at the time of the Inquisition and the Crusades and the councils of Nicaea and Trent. There was another one in the 1600s that involved an ice age, and another one in the 1840s, around 1846, 1847, that left 15 feet of mud all over Europe, North America, okay? And the mud's still there. If you look at YouTube videos of walking around the streets of London, St. Petersburg, Russia, Paris, okay, if you're walking on the streets, you can see where there's a whole level of the building that's underground, and they've carved out a space for so that the window can show some light in it. If you look at Frogmore, which is on the Windsor campus, Frogmore has a whole floor that's underground because it was covered up with mud. Okay, we haven't been told about that mud flood that covered over most of Europe. We haven't been told why there was something called orphan trains that took hundreds of thousands of loose children to new homes in North America and Australia. We haven't been told why so many cities, quote, burned down, or they were expositions that were torn down, that have common architecture from city to city to city, elegant, intricate, artistic architecture. And the buildings that couldn't be redeemed were either burned down or torn down. That was part of the remnants of the mud flood and the previous apocalypses. Okay? My source says at one time this world supported 50 billion people. And if you look at the wreckage all over the world, 15 cities underwater next to port cities, you can see why that was possible. All of Siberia was settled at one time. They have airports where now there are no cities. They have dams where now there are no rivers in Siberia. Just check out Sylvia over there on New Earth and the group that are investigating, okay, the mud flood records and the engravings and the ancient maps with their star forts all over the world at one time, all of which has been hidden by somebody. And of course, our real problem is non-disclosure. It is the secrecy, the confidentiality, the compartmentalization, the need to know, the classified documents that hide everything real from us, the people. We're still being told we live on a spinning ball. But if you have a washing machine in your house, okay, and you run that thing in spin cycle, you know damn well there couldn't possibly be any water along Antarctica. It would all have to have been spun off, okay? We've been told the Earth is a spinning ball. Actually, Antarctica is not a continent, okay? It's the container, the rim around the Lake of Seas. The moon is not 226,000 miles away. It is not 2,100 miles in diameter. The sun is not 93 million miles away. We have an artificial sun at this time. We are being told the most egregious bullshit lies, and it just goes on and on and on. So I've been threading the whole story together with a couple of books that I've put up, that I've had self-published, Civil Life and Galactic History, and Domain versus Order, Prison Planet Earth. And then the one to make it easy is Come Let Us Make Man in Our Image. And I've threaded all of this together, and what I come up with is that Satan is not, I don't know if he ever was, but he is not a person. He's a perspective, a point of view, which says that people who dissent have to be sacrificed. They cannot be allowed to spread common dissent. And we see that practice all the time. I have a Facebook page that's covered. It's departed martyrs, truth tellers who've been disappeared, offed, heart attacked, suicided, okay? That is the Satanist perspective, that dissent cannot be allowed. And the targeting program of the CIA or NSA or NRO, whoever does the targeting program, follows the same doctrine as the fifth dimensional Anunnaki, Sumerian, Babylonian, imperial doctrine that you've got to get rid of dissent. And Lucifer, I don't know if Lucifer ever was an individual, but Luciferianism is the point of view that says you can only have one governing agency per world, and it doesn't matter how many different cultures, races, ways of being, environments. Doesn't matter, you only have one, and it's top down, and everybody does exactly the same thing. Okay, like China, like Sharia law. Okay, now one of the aspects of imperial dogma that is very troublesome here in the West is that there are three teachings in the Quran. I'm just talking about the fundamental ones. I'm not talking about women and little girls. Okay, I'm not going to get into gender, but I'm talking about the three teachings that absolutely contradict everything in the Jewish law and everything in the Beatitudes of Jesus. One, okay, is taqiyya, double dealing, say one thing, do something else. Two is jizya, the protection tax, setting up a protection racket to protect your own people at the price of other people. And three, jihad, which is to invade other lands and impose our ways upon them. Those three teachings in the Quran are not compatible with either the holy laws of Moses or the Beatitudes of Jesus. Now, I don't know what Islamics want to claim about God giving us law, but Yahweh, if you have read the Psalms and the Proverbs and Isaiah, is not the kind of guy who goes along with taqiyya, jizya, and jihad. Okay, they do not work in the Judeo-Christian culture, period. And so there's no excusing the teachings as just being a religion and all religions are the same. When the behavior's not the same, the religion's not the same. Duh. All right, enough of that. Because the Christians and the Jews have also fragmented and factionated. We have Christians who believe, because the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Trent replaced a bunch of the Bible books with the epistles of Saul of Tarsus, known as Paul, who says over and over in his epistles, well, it doesn't matter, you can't buy salvation, it's all just believing in Jesus, as if your thoughts, doctrines, dogmas, beliefs are more important than your behavior. That's not what the law taught. That's not what Jesus taught. But it is what the Calvinists, what John Calvin taught. And it is what a lot of the Reformed Protestants do. They quibble and strain at gnats and swallow camels over doctrines and dogmas, but they don't pay attention to behavior. And so their daughters dress like worldly girls, and their sons swear and curse like worldly boys, and they have joined the world. So a large segment of Christianity isn't really Christian. Okay, and then on the Jewish side, there are those Jews who adapted the Babylonian Talmud, which rationalizing raping little kids under the age of 3 and taking the imperialist attitude that we're better than everybody else and we're going to rule the world. Well, that's just Babylon all over again. Okay, and then there's the Catholic, the Catholic Church, for all of its glory and attempt to be devout. Its priests have been charged with and convicted of sexually molesting thousands of children without explaining to us what was their rationale. Where did that doctrine come from? Where does that teaching come from? Well, it comes straight out of Babylon. It's straight out of the Two Babylons by a bishop, Alexander Hislop. So where does that lead us to? That the Satanist point of view and the Luciferian point of view come from somewhere else. They're not human, they're not from here. And the Bible even says that, that Satan and Lucifer were angels and they took on this rebellion. Okay, they're not from here. Where could they possibly be from? Well, how about the treaties that our government has signed? Eisenhower signed the Greada Treaty in 1954, and George Bush Sr. signed the Tau 9 in 2005, that mirrored the El Anu Treaty, the ancient El Anu Treaty that was imposed on this entire galaxy after the Lyran Wars, which I detail in Civil Life and Galactic History, that there are superior races and inferior races, and it's the job of the superior races to cull and control the inferior races. Well, the superior races are head-tripping intellectuals who are heartless and ruthless, and so they're not really superior at all. We all know this. The people who call themselves elites are anything but elite. They're heartless, grasping, hoarding, ugly people, because they keep they're like this. All right, they're awful in my mind anyway. All right, so those treaties represent perspectives that are non-human, that are ET. And the ETs have influenced human society to the point where divide and conquer has become so intense that we're ready to go to a civil war in the United States over the constitutional amendment that says we can defend ourselves with guns. And because of the trade policies that ignore human rights, we're always teetering on the tipping point of a war with China, Russia, and Iran because we're fighting over resources with them. So we're always teetering on nuclear war, and we're always teetering on civil war. And the ETs love that, right? It's good for business. It's good for the Space Force business in gun running and drug running and human trafficking. All right? None of which we're supposed to know about. Got it? We're not supposed to know about any of this. And so I have been, as you know, I listen to guidance, and we converse back and forth. What's going on and how far are you with this? Now, I've been telling this story now for 5 years. I've been telling this story and asking for guidance for 5 years. And I finally got back some guidance that has some teeth in it, which is a reason to perk up, right? Today I put out 3 proclamations. And based on the study that I was given in the solfeggio precipitation frequencies and the occupancy of souls on this world, and where souls are occupied and how many are in the hells and how many are in the intermediate civilizing process and how many are in the ascension process. What I found out was that 80% of the souls that have ever incarnated and disincarnated on this world are captive in hells, and they are so disoriented and so confused, they have no idea what date it is or where they're located. They're in hell. They're in oblivion. They don't know what's going on. There's just chaos for them. 80% of human souls are in that condition. And the word I got back was, that violates the stipulation that only 20% of souls of any world can be allowed to deteriorate to that point. I said, okay, so we have 4 times as many souls in oblivion, hells, as we're supposed to. What do you want to do about that? And they said to me, well, we have to prosecute a lawsuit. We have to sue the responsible party for creating the conditions that caused this outcome. And I said, but it's all in the treaties. Look at the treaties. That was set up that way. And it's set up to only always tell myths and fables and doctrines and dogmas, never mind what's true. You tell the truth and you get offed, you get suicided. And they said, And so there is now a lawsuit pending at Orion Nebula against the Anu Elohim and the Christos founders, and Ashiana Dean will tell you who they are. Her whole series, Voyagers and Voyagers 2, is about them. And they are being sued for the outcome here that 80% of our souls are in purgatory and hell situations. And our situation with treachery, double dealing, and protection rackets, and sacrificing dissenters, and the whole mess is being reviewed by the higher intelligences of the entire universe. This is not just at the galaxy level. The galaxy level is being prosecuted by their progenitors going back 3 levels. Because, you know, the whole universe is in a hierarchy if you've read the Urantia book and the Oahspe. See, the problem is Christian pastors are so like this. They don't realize there's more than one book that honors, justifies, and glorifies Yahweh, our planetary sovereign. They want to say it's all in one book. Well, I have to say yes, the Bible is a good one because it tells most of the story in one book. But that's not all the story. You can't get a whole library of knowledge into one little book. It's not going to work. And so our planet is not going to be allowed to go through a reset or war now. We are just going to be in a stasis condition so long as this lawsuit is being prosecuted at Orion Nebula. I don't know how long that's going to take. But the people who feel that they have a rationale to impose a one world top-down hierarchy on everyone on this world, and to impose sanctions on land ownership, and impose sanctions on speech, and impose sanctions on defending themselves, and impose mandatory poisoning by vaccines, mandatory poisoning by chemtrails, mandatory poisoning by fluoride in the water, mandatory poisoning by GMO food products that literally poison the gut. Those people who are responsible for the population reduction strategies in place that the Illuminati and the rich hoarders, okay, the rich robber baron hoarders have instituted, their souls at this point are at risk. They're the ones likely to be populating the hells when this trial is over, because our souls are lights, are little lights that come on and are not easily destroyed. And so rather than just dissipate and wink out the souls, it has been decided that a better penalty for the level of treachery, deceit, and evil that we're witnessing, the people responsible for it need to just go down to the bottom of the pile and stay there for a while and see how they like it. And so this is what I'm dealing with, that just us is not a civil or decent or honest form of justice. Just us does not work in this universe. That the best economy is by sharing, trading, bartering, and giving out of love and care. And paper money, yes, can be used for some transactions, some large transactions, but paper and plastic money are too easily absconded with by the hoarders and the people who, and I don't know, I hate to call them people, they are demonic psychopaths who need to control everything and everybody. And so what I'm asking you to do is put down your narrow perspective of your political hot topic, whether it's the gun topic or the terrorism topic or the UFOs topic or the economy topic or the impeachment topic or the abortion topic or the church topic or the, come on. We have all these topics, and my news to you tonight is that all of these topics are related. They all come down to a single historical reality that has been kept from us, no thanks to the United States Congress and the Bar Association. You know that attorneys were never, under the 13th Amendment, going to be allowed to populate Congress. And there was a good reason for that, because attorneys make their money by twisting and gaming with law and legislation. And that's where our troubles begin, in the laws that have been twisted out of did something actually cause harm, or was it just an administrative policy? What happened to President Trump didn't harm him, and everybody's attention is on the process of determining that, where it didn't cause any harm. But the actual physical harm that President Trump is experiencing as a result of that fruitless, stupefied investigation, the stress and the uproar that has been caused to the president by what the leftist, Marxist seditionists are doing, that is harm, what's happening to the president now. What happened in the election was inconsequential, all right? Yes, we know we have a problem with rigged elections because the Democratic Party has been deep in sedition and pay-to-play with Ukraine for some years now, okay? And the whole tempest in a teacup is about covering up the corruption of the Ukraine pay-to-play and covering up the network of pedophiles that have been identified in the progressive and Democratic parties, and covering it up by attacking the current president. It's all part of the same landscape. So that's what I'm working on, is to make it simple. Lay it out so people can see. Now, I have produced the legal documents that I was told to produce, and they are up on Twitter. There is proclamations 1, 2, and 3. One is the general proclamation against the accused. The second one has to do with physical outcomes, and the third one has to do with mental, spiritual outcomes of secrecy, non-disclosure, and compartmentalization of the military. So one guy in the military doesn't know what the guy standing next to him is doing. It's just all crazy. Okay, it's all crazy. It's demonic, what we have experienced, and what our God, the planetary sovereign Yahweh, has experienced, has put him through hell. Because instead of getting he has the angels to support his version of law, which is just common laws about cause and effect, but with two factions infiltrating, with double dealing and protection rackets. It's just been a nightmare for the planetary sovereign we have. He's really had a bad time here. And he's one of the oldest of the sylphs to be a creator. And so what I want to say to you is, pay attention to the larger perspective. Get out of your own little comfort space, in your own little safe space, talking about your favorite topic, and realize the whole picture is an exercise in demonic possession by ETs who've written treaties that our political leaders are beholden to. That's where it all comes from. So you think I got the whole thing in one picture? You let me know, okay? Let me know when you talk to me next time. I'll see you. Bye-bye.